There we go.
Oh, hang on, you got.
It's very romantic now, Sam.
Where's the candles?
My mood screen now, exactly.
Gonna have to start the little, what's that molten thing? That lamp?
Lava lamp.
Okay, Martin.
Okay, guys, let us call to order and start our October 8th regular planning board meeting and rise. To the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first roll call, Madame.
Chair Lindstrom,
Here.
Mr. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Mr. Buckbinder,
Here.
Mr. Sarowski,
Here.
Mr. Kinsey,
Here.
Ms. Maloney is not here.
I will make a motion because we don't have anything big to cancel the October 26th workshop meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain. So Brianna will put out maps for everybody because we're having map crises
I
to
already
make,
did that.
exactly, to make sure that everybody has a big map here since we're all hoofing it at the beginning of every application. And for some of our bigger applications, since it takes a while to get the minutes all done, and we have a list sometimes of follow-up for all of for the applicants, Patrick is gonna be like a bit of a subscribe and write down, we wanted this, we need to look at that, we need to do that. So if I forget stuff, he's sort of written it down and we can get back to the applicant
I forgot about it.
in, what is the little blinking red light
We
there?
found it outside,
When it stops, the place is gonna go.
just ignore it.
Exactly.
It was by my car, we don't know.
I was like, that's very disturbing, the crystal from Pluto that we have there.
Uh-oh. We got 10 seconds.
We got 10.
Doing a training. So if they.
Yeah, I forgot, you know, that totally
Got
I
it.
lost it.
So that's just sort of an FYI. So if we have a whole list of things that an applicant needs to follow up on to make sure that we have the info. Then I also have to pass around to everybody. This was the littering memo that we're doing as a consortium since we cannot do anything official. So everybody can sign, and then I did add, as you saw, the agricultural bit that you had there. So back you
I
have.
cannot leak. Oh, so we need to read them?
It's not much, you've already read it.
Yeah,
It's just to sign it so I can scan it and then we can send it to the
okay.
town board. Trainings, I can tell you the stream training was the most popular thing in all of Ulster County. There was a waiting list a mile long. And the last training that you were on, I was on, and Rick, I think we were like half of the entire training. So everybody is, yeah, Dorian was on also.
The Hamlet one?
Exactly, the sort of
You were on
density.
that through Aaron, right?
Yeah.
I'll forward your name to Mary Ann at the county and get you added to the list so that
But-
you can get your training credit.
All right, thanks.
It was a very good training.
It was 7 hours of credit, by the way.
Because they have like the square, you know, it's like squared when it's two people doing
Right,
it.
yeah.
Action on the meetings. Anybody have any commentary, anything? All right, I'll make a motion to approve the September 14th regular.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against, abstain. All right, first up is Planning Board 2020-06. That's the special use permit. Continued application for the Sleeping Giant Ice Cream Company. And as you all saw, we did get a final,
I don't have big maps.
we got baby maps.
Yeah. I'm sorry, everyone's gonna have this on there. I just have it up here. I'm gonna do all of them.
There, you can.
Thank you.
That,
You have to come get it.
have it, Brian, or do you want to?
Do I need that?
I got it up.
This is for a different application, get it on.
Oh, I see. Okay, why don't we just use one map for all the applications?
Took me a lucky. I like that approach.
Let's use the same map.
Same map for everything. So
We know that it's, everything is included on it, it's all.
Well, memorized it thoroughly. So as you can see, Terry, is Terry there? Yes,
I'm here.
I see you.
And Mr. Christian.
And Mr. Christian is there also.
Yes.
As you can see, Terry added in some of the stuff that we discussed. We've got the 2-foot contours, which helps you see that it's quite flat on the top and then slopes. We have the awnings that are proposed, the lighting. There's 2 floodlights that are building mounted already there. He also detailed existing trees and the 2 street lights. Also, I asked him to put the height of the street light because you can calculate the direct cone of light from a street light. It's the same distance out in as it is the height. So that's not your total ambient light, but the exact direct cone of light. So you have going from the light on the street, you have 18.5 feet, which sort of hits the edge of the area where the tables will be. And then in the back, you have a 21.5 street light, which will cover some with the light of the entrance going in. We have opened up their 8, and that, Terry, was my question. Did you get my message?
Yes, I did, but I didn't get it till today. Yes, the parking, the one parking looks a little different because the back edge of the greenhouse, which is to be removed, we've kept the 3 parking spots next to the flower shop or the ice cream shop against the back wall of the old greenhouse that's being removed. And that kind of, we can't extend the blacktop any further to match that line because there's a buried water line there that we don't want to cover with blacktop in case it ever has to be dug up or repaired. So there's a little shift in the depth of the 3 parking spaces by the flower shop, but that actually gives us better room for them to back out and turn to exit.
But the one that has the 2 lines on it, which is the corner of the greenhouse is being removed, that is available to be. That's available.
Right, that is going to be a parking space, but it shows the building still being there.
Okay,
And that's why it appears to be 2 lines there, but that's the building to be removed.
okay, that's perfect. Does everybody make
Yeah, I
some
see
sense of that?
So is there where the back of the greenhouse is, it's a dotted line, Terry? Can you hear me? You want me to take the mask?
Yes, there's a dotted line.
There's a dotted line?
Yeah,
Is
Right.
there, is there gonna be a barrier there, or,
No, the dotted line is the greenhouse that's being removed.
so is that all flat land?
Yes, it's a floor. It's a concrete floor.
Oh,
Pretty
okay,
flat.
got it. Okay,
so, and we also have now, since the parking was removed on the other side, there's plenty of,
It swings.
there's well over 25 feet for swings, and to have your 10 by 20 and
Maren, in your findings, you talk about landscaping, and I see the existing landscaping. Is there additional landscaping that the applicant's gonna put in?
then we refer to the piece of paper that we have that's in color. They didn't put it on this site plan that is in your, and that will be part of the documents. If you look at,
Is it online?
yes, the one that he, here, I can give you a little baby one.
I think I.
So that draws out some of the,
Okay. I see. I
that's,
can hear.
that's basically the landscape plan there that'll be attached. If anybody else wants to- that's online. That's been up there since the beginning, or close to the beginning. That was the first sketch that he did.
Is the material listed?
Yep, it is.
Can I ask a question?
Anybody else want to see it?
Want to see?
That's it.
Mari,
Yeah,
can I ask a question?
yeah.
Okay, in your description, draft, you mentioned, sitting 8 to 10 picnic tables and a bicycle place. Why it's not on the plan?
The tables, well, the tables he does show on this sketch plan, you don't have to have a table because it's not a permanent land use. He could have 8 to 10 tables. He could put 2 tables out. He could, so that's not a permanent land use
Okay.
fixture. That's not really.
What about bicycle rides?
The bicycle rack, we could get them to add that in. That was probably my mistake. Or we could just remove having a bicycle rack, but we do like to have bicycle racks, so we could just have them make that a condition to add the bicycle rack, but the tables, I mean, tables are tables, they're all gonna go inside when it's snowing out.
In the
You
back,
can get
bicycle
bicycle
rack is
racks that aren't
in the
attached to the
conditions.
property anyway, you could just use
Moving around,
one
okay.
that sits on the ground.
But
Right.
I'm still not clear about the parking. You mentioned 25 feet. Where is it? There is no 25 feet between,
Yes, there is 25 feet, Zorian. All of those parking places can back out into 25 feet.
Right, for scale, look, this one says 20 feet.
Right.
So you got more than 25 feet before you get to the road.
But if you get out of here, you don't have 25 feet here.
What is that line?
Which one?
Well, the one you're saying doesn't give you
It's
25 feet.
parking, it's the parking.
I know, but this is, what, you
Ah,
have more
no,
than,
this is basically end of the road, end of the asphalt. Am I correctly
Zorian?
interpreting this? I was there as
Yes.
well. Is this end of the asphalt?
That is the end of the asphalt, but you can still,
But the road is here.
I know, it doesn't have to go into the road. You go into a parking lot. So here you back in the parking lot, 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 here you back in the parking, or here you back in the parking lot and you go back
But
up
you
to
don't
the
have a
road.
25 feet here in order to back.
Here is 25 feet, okay,
I
right?
understand, but not 25 feet here.
So you have, but that is, you could probably make the asphalt go farther.
But they have to be clear. Okay, so if I'm coming to the place,
Yes,
I'm either have to back up this way in order to conveniently get out. Or if I park in here, I'm backing up this way, but there is no 25 feet here.
so what would you like to do? Suppress that parking space and cancel the entire approval? I mean,
I just want to make it convenient whoever parking there. There is, and if somebody is here coming out or going this way, what happened to this car? Essentially, it's the same thing what the county is describing. And I
Maybe,
think they're making points.
Maybe Terry can help clear it up. Hey, Terry, as you come into the parking lot, the first parking spot, count 1, 2, count parking spots 3, 4, and 5 as you come in, right in front of you. So 3, 4, and 5 from the right. I think Zorian is saying, is there 25 feet? Or are you going to go into a grassy knoll? Is that a hill? Do you see what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about the most southern parking spot?
yes.
Yeah.
The blacktop part.
The blacktop part, number
Yep.
3, 4, and 5, counting from the right. If I held it up like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, you can hold that up any which way, but we can't see you out here in La La Land.
Well, let's come from
Make
bottom.
me, do you have a plan there? Can you count the 3rd, 4th, and 5th parking spot?
So as you drive in, Terry, you've got room to back out on the first
2.
two, probably on the third, but then you have the 4th and the 5th. It might not be a full 25 feet. We can't grant a waiver also, guys, to this.
Well, you're gonna swing.
Okay, so no, you don't have 25 feet to back directly out of that spot, but that's not what that's for. Okay, the 25 feet is so you can back out and have turning radius, which is there's plenty of turning radius there. So if they're backing out, they're going to back out onto the existing blacktop drive, the broken blacktop drive, and then they're gonna pull forward and pull down to Brookside Place.
Does that make sense, Zorian? It's not 25 straight back, it's that you can have a turning radius.
Right, we don't have any additional parking back there, and there's 19 feet from the end of the parking spot to actually from the end of that parking spot.
Maybe make it that area a little bit wider, you know, when asphalt ends, maybe.
To the end of the fence is 22.34 feet.
It's gonna be, something is gonna be backup, you know, somebody coming in, somebody pulling out.
Have you ever been to Cherry's?
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the one next door to Adams? People don't tend to be filling this up incredibly that we're going to have, I personally think we're going to have that degree of a parking difficulty, especially when the bulk of the parking spaces have ample room. So if someone was pulling out up on top, they have plenty of room to pull back and wait for that one person that only has 20 feet.
I'm looking at the contour of the land. Is there any reason why those spaces couldn't be moved up 5 feet so then everyone's got 25 feet?
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, because there's buried utilities underneath that section.
But he said there's utilities buried underneath there and you don't want to park on the utilities.
I think Zorian being a good point, I think Brian is too. I think another consideration, at least for me, in favor of leaving it as it is that this is an existing business that's had an existing lot that's functioned this way. It's been fine. They're adding more spaces and more space. I think that granting a waiver and overriding the Ulster County comment on this is appropriate, given that it's an existing use, given the consideration of the utilities. It is true that if we were starting from scratch and there was nothing there, we would want it to be wider. I think that's completely true. But I think that it's also reasonable to say, well, we're going to make them deal with utilities, we're going to make them add 5 feet of pavement when this is already functioning in the way that they're describing, and it's been fine. So like I hear the point that you're making, Zorian, I think it's well taken. For me, there's other considerations that.
So Zorian, I'm going to stop this here. We're going to put it to a vote and we're going to vote whether we can leave it this way or not, because we really don't need to belabor this.
Can I just add one more word? Because I understand where you're coming from. I think what would be helpful is they mark clearly parking spots on asphalt. So people know under what angle to park there. Kind of some guidance for the driver when they come.
Striping the park, yes, that's fine. We can add that. Did you hear that, Terry?
Yeah.
I know it's hard to hear everything, just making sure that we have striping on it so they know where the parking places are.
Yep, that won't be a problem.
Okay, yeah, so it's basically.
We will add that. All right, anything else besides the parking?
I mean, I guess we'll get to this when we're looking at the Ulster County comments. Forgive me for not having read through if it's already in the draft that was circulated, but I feel also comfortable about the lighting, not having the foot candles or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had that in there, but we're looking at the map.
There was a lot of, they didn't really seem to see the lighting that was on there. So can you pass out the decision and we'll
What are your hours of operation going to be and how late into the season? Because then lights might be irrelevant.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier in the process where they said they expected basically by the time it's dark early,
they're gonna not be in operation.
Yeah, I don't see the point of that if there's some light from the road.
So there's light from the road. There's also, if you look at it, there's 2 existing floodlights on the building. So both of the places where you would go to order your ice cream and also for the lights where people would sit has lighting. You're not, and as I said, if you draw a cone around that street pole, you have to take the protractor that Rick has. The light, the direct cone of light from the street light comes out into the edge of the area where you would be sitting, and that's direct light. That's not ambient flowing overlay.
What about lights for the parking area down at the south end?
There is another light down there. There is a
Where is it on the map?
street light. It's on the map. It's on the other side of Sunset Drive. There's an existing street light.
Yeah, it shows it on here.
You see it?
Yeah.
All right, so we can add and change, but let's start to go through the process here. All right, so this is decision 2020-06 SPA SUP conditional final approval, special use and site plan approval of the Sleeping Giant Ice Cream Company, owner Robert Christian. Zorian pointed out that my date is wrong. On the revised site plan, it should be 9/28, not 10/2. All right, findings. The planning board received a zoning referral from seasonal ice cream store at 3 Sunset Drive off of County Route 209, Cohasset, New York. The proposed use is a seasonal spring through fall neighborhood ice cream shop with window exterior service and outdoor seating. No new construction is proposed. The site currently serves as a retail flower shop and greenhouse. Contiguous parcels are commercial and residential. Contiguous parcels are zoned H Hamlet. We also received a site plan, special use application, EAF, sketch and site plans and related documents. Parcel to develop is SBL 76-10-1-35-100. It has road frontage under County Route 209, which is a New York State Department of Transportation maintained highway, but access will be through Sunset Drive, small road off of Route 209, not by Route 209, so a New York State DOT approval driveway permit is not necessary. The parcel is located in the Hamlet zoning district and the use complies with the standards of the district. We determined it was a type 2 action, no further action was required. The applicant proposes the conversion of an existing 36 by 24, 864 square foot retail flower shop into a seasonal old-fashioned ice cream shop with shakes, sundaes, and other dessert treats. Outdoor seasonal seating at 8 to 10 picnic tables is proposed. No indoor seating or indoor service is proposed. The use shall be compliant with the articles of Town of Rochester Municipal Code 140-20, General Commercial Industrial Standards as a condition of approval. Subs on that, building design. The applicant plans to convert the flower shop with limited exterior changes. A walk-up takeout ordering window and awnings are to be added. Parking. The applicant proposes 8 parking spaces, including 1 ADA compliant parking space. A bicycle rack is provided and indicated on the site plan. That needs to be changed. I got it. I'm going to take that off and make it a.
You're not gonna have a bicycle list?
No, I'll just take it off. It's not indicated. There's no finding that it's indicated, and I'll put it on in the conditions that a bicycle rack shall be added. Lighting is to remain as currently is in use. As used to be seasonal, natural ambient light, existing mounted building lighting, and the roadway lighting of Route 209 provide ample illumination.
Did you add 209 and Sunset Drive?
Yes, thank you.
So Terry, the lighting from Sunset Drive is gonna throw light. I'm assuming this place will stay open until 10:15 on summer nights.
No,
What time is it gonna close?
we'll be closed shortly after dark,
Okay,
or sunset is a better way of putting it. No, we're not staying open that late.
all right.
Any further additional lighting will have to be fully shielded, dark sky compliant lighting to meet Town of Rochester Municipal Code 140-20H lighting requirements. Signs. The existing flower shop sign will be converted to an ice cream shop sign with no major changes. The current sign is compliant with 140-21 signs. Sound and noise. The town has no noise ordinance, although 140-20F General Commercial and Industrial Standards, the Town of Rochester zoning code address sound standards for any newly proposed use of a parcel. The board determined the proposed use will cause a low to non-existent increase in noise at the periphery of the property and that sound will be compliant with 140-20, unless people slurp really loud their ice cream shakes. Landscaping. Proposed landscaping emphasizes the regeneration, I'm going to take the comma out, of native wildflowers augmented by shrubbery and plantings. A schedule of materials to be used and locations was provided with the site plan. The removal of accessory greenhouses will enhance the view shed of the parcel. The board determined that the landscaping plan complies with 140-15 landscaping. Water, wastewater, and well. The site is on the Warsing municipal water system with existing septic. Water usage will be diminished with the change in use. Department of Health approval will be required for a food service establishment before a certificate of occupancy can be granted. Public hearing was held. All public concerns, observations, and support were duly taken into consideration of the planning board in drafting its decision. The application was referred to the Town of Rochester Fire Department and the Town of Rochester Highway Supervisor. The Town of Rochester Fire Department responded that the removal of the greenhouses and expansion of the parking area would improve fire and safety access, and that turning radius for emergency vehicles was sufficient with the proposed parking plan. So there's part of your answer, Zorian. No response received from the Tor Highway Department. The application was required to be referred to the Ulster County Planning Board, who returned the comments addressed below. Anything else besides Sunset Drive? And I took out the bicycle rack, but I'll add that in as a condition later.
Lauren, just for correction,
Yes.
that should say Accord Fire District, not Town of Rochester. Sorry,
Thank you.
there isn't one.
Fire district or fire department?
Exactly.
They're the fire district, is the parent, the main organization. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Therefore, the planning board adopts these statements as written findings of special use proposal. Do I have a motion to adopt the findings?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Against, abstained. All right, the Ulster County Planting Board, General Municipal Law 239 referral. Whereas the town of Rochester submitted the application for review to the UCPB. The UCPB reviewed the proposal August 6, 2020, returned written comments stating required modifications. Internal circulation. The applicant is proposing angled spots without dimensions provided or distance between the parking aisles provided. Design will require customers to make multiple turning movements before they're able to pull out, and will likely result in turning conflicts with other vehicles and pedestrians. Also unclear whether there's adequate room for delivery and emergency response vehicles to adequately egress from the site. Modifications. Careful attention to detail with respect to internal movement should be sought. While a seasonal use, peak hour operation of these types of businesses typically result in full capacity use of the facility and its parking. Dimension of the parking spaces, space between the aisles, and turning radius for emergency response and delivery vehicles will need to be provided as part of a more thorough review. Response. The applicant no longer proposes angled parking. See final site plan. 8 straight-in perpendicular parking spots of the dimensions 10 by 20 with over 25 feet of interior access turning are detailed in the final site plan as per code. Town of Rochester Parking Code for commercial enterprises requires 5 parking places for a commercial establishment of this size. The applicant proposes 8 parking places. Furthermore, there are no specific tour zoning specifications for outdoor-only seasonal parking. As per 140-17A to A through G, the planning board has the jurisdiction to modify standards in referencing industry or case studies, other agencies, customer type, et al. Firstly, the Town of Rochester Fire Department was contacted and responded, the Accord. Fire Department was contacted and responded that the proposed removal of the greenhouses, paving of entry and lower parking and new arrangement of parking would greatly enhance the safety and turning radius for emergency vehicles, and that they had no difficulty with the emergency access to the proposed use. Secondly, referencing similar Ulster County ice cream shops, parking was found to be similar in nature. That was my reference. I can take it out. It's pretty similar to everybody else when you see they don't have a lot of parking at ice cream stores. Thirdly, referencing the American Planning Association's guidelines for parking and zoning, a ratio of 10 parking places for every 1,000 feet of space is used as a rule of thumb. With the proposed use that would calculate to 8.6 parking places. Thus, the planning board determined the proposed 8 parking spaces proposed in the final site plan will be sufficient in number and safety.
Just an observation, please. In response, I was confused when you write no longer proposes angle parking, but under the angle parking next to handicap parking?
Zorian, that's like 4 degrees off from straight.
Okay.
It's angled parking would tend to be at a 30-degree angle, 45-degree angle, 60-degree angle.
Okay.
I mean, did anybody else have any other commentary there? I think it's a minor nuance of angle, an angle where it really forces you to turn differently, I think is what, and if you read our code, we talk about large angles like you learn in elementary school with your triangles and stuff.
It doesn't appear that there's 4 degrees, but
Well, I think also they're all like, you've
they're all
got,
parallel essentially.
they're all parallel to each other.
Right.
Also
Yeah,
the-
it's a confusion. Between
Yeah, and the depth of them is.
Is the proper depth and width.
Okay.
Lighting, comment. Outdoor lighting details are absent from the materials provided. Given the nature and type of use and tendency for these facilities to operate into the evening with frequent traffic, it is recommended a lighting plan be provided. Lighting levels will need to be calculated for the plan with levels not to exceed bada, 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 bada. Everything will be LED, it needs to be LED, and need to meet fully shielded definition. Response. A lighting plan was provided on the site plan as well as detailed in the applicant narrative, but the details might not have been seen by the UCPB. Public streetlights are found at both the corner of Sunset Drive and a Route 209 in front of the proposed use. The light cone from a streetlight has roughly the same diameter as the height of the fixture from the ground. The streetlight on Route 209 and Sunset Drive casts light that substantially covers the outdoor eating area and most of the parking lot. Existing building-mounted lighting provides additional lighting for the interior of the lot and is detailed with the street lighting on the site plan. Any further additional lighting shall comply with Town of Rochester 140-20 lighting. Town of Rochester zoning code does not have jurisdiction over New York State roadway lighting. Existing building mounting lighting shall be compliant with 140-20 lighting. So we
You
can't,
might just want to mention in our response also that the intended hours,
yeah,
closing hours will be at sunset. So the need for extensive evening lighting is, given the seasons and the hours, is moot.
intended closing hours for the use will be at sunset, thus additional evening lighting will not be necessary. Last comment was signage. Signage details are absent from the materials provided. Required modifications. Signage details that conform with the standards of the zoning statute without need for variance should be provided for the town planning board's review. Existing sign, or our response is existing signage is to remain as is with solely a name change from the existing floral shop to the Sleeping Giant Ice Cream Company. Existing signage is compliant with 140-21 signs. So Mary Lou, I'm always like, do we accept and adopt because we basically,
You're overruling.
we're overruling,
That was my question.
right, yeah.
Are we overruling all of them or just the second one?
I mean, the signage is, they already had a sign.
We're kind of overruling or
Three, they're saying
clarifying,
attention to detail, we are doing attention to detail.
clarifying the lighting. It was given to them when it's present already.
Right, it's sort of weird there.
But I think you're overruling everything because you're not,
We're not actually doing the specific things.
Right.
We're saying.
right, and you
Right.
provided a reason for each, so.
Okay,
Okay.
So we need to say UCPB required
modifications are overruled,
Are received and overruled.
yes.
Will receive, reviewed, and overruled.
Respectfully
Is there-
You can say overruled
You
with
can say
explanation,
overruled.
Overruled with explanation, yep.
because you're gonna send that to them.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
have to-
yeah.
Yep.
UCPB required modifications are overruled with explanation by the following vote. Do we roll call this?
Well, first we need a motion and a.
I'll make,
motion.
second the motion?
I'll second.
We all second. And is it roll call, Mary Lou? for
It
this, or
doesn't have
just-
to be roll call,
We
but
just have to have a
these Zoom meetings,
supermajority.
we've been kind of, right, you need a
Right.
supermajority.
We've been rolling along on these
Right.
things.
Why don't we do a roll call, just so we can count our supermajority?
Chair Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Buckbinder,
Yes.
Mr. Sarowski,
Yes.
Mr. Pinsky.
Yes.
There goes the computer.
Motion passed.
Motion passes. Pursuant to the standards of the Town of Rochester Code 140 zoning, the Town of Rochester Planning Board has reviewed the application presented and grants special use conditional final approval to the Sleeping Giant Ice Cream Company, Robert Christian, owner and applicant, permitting the new use of ice cream shop for the land situated at 3 Sunset Drive, known as SBL 76.10-1-35.100, located in the Hamlet zoning district, subject to the conditions expressed below. Ditto grants site plan conditional final approval. Conditions of the approval. Any and all fees due to the Town of Rochester involved in this application will be paid in full prior to the chairman's signature on the site plan. All local, county, state, and federal laws or code shall be complied with for the current or future use of these lands. Any deviation from or amending of the approved and signed site plan shall require resubmission to the planning board, except as may be permitted as determined by the code enforcement officer. Any and all other agencies, permits, or approvals which are currently required or may be determined in the future to be required in conjunction with construction and operation of this use shall be secured or renewed as applicable. Should any condition imposed by other agency permits cause condition to be in conflict, the more restrictive conditions shall prevail. The facility owner shall specifically secure Ulster County Health Department permits for food service before a certificate of occupancy shall be issued. Should any permit approval necessitate a change to the approved site plan, the matter should be referred to the planning board for considerations. The use shall comply with all provisions of 140-20 general commercial and industrial standards and 140-10 lot development standards or their successors. Parking, access, and traffic shall be compliant with 140-17 all times. Parking shall only be allowed in the spaces designated on the approved and signed site plan.
We have the market
Yes.
and bicycles.
Yes, bicycles will be a separate one, but parking, access, and traffic shall be in compliance, shall only allow the spaces designated in the approved and signed site plan. Parking spaces
Shall be delineated.
shall be, what's the? Striped, thank you. Striped as per final site plan. Parking shall not be allowed within the public road right of way or within the ice cream shop access driveway or designated traffic laws at any time. It should not interfere with the movement of emergency vehicles, including but not limited to fire, police, emergency medical transport. All access and driveway shall be maintained to New York State Fire Code regulations and standards. Let's put in here a bicycle rack shall be provided and detailed on final site plan.
Safe location, maybe?
So you got that, Terry? You'll have to stick a bike rack up there somewhere. Okay?
We'll find a nice spot for it.
Find a nice spot for it. Beautiful. Landscaping shall be installed as shown on the site plan to remain compliant with landscaping at all times. Lighting, in the occurrence that additional lighting shall be installed in the future, shall be compliant with 140-20H at all times. All refuse, wastewater, gray water, and cooking grease shall be deposited and maintained in appropriate containers. There shall be no dumping allowed on the parcel. Signage shall comply with 140-20F signs. Signage shall remain as is currently in use. I can't lick my fingers with this mask on. I can turn my pages.
with solely a name change.
The town of Rochester further grants the authority of the chairman to certify condition. It should be 1 and what number will it be for the bicycle?
That was under parking, I think.
Yeah, we'll just put it under 7, exactly. Conditions 1 and 7 have been completed further, without further resolution, and to sign and date the plat at such time. Effective approval, the special use and site plan approval and associated conditions shall be binding upon the applicant, all successive owners of the land, so long as such use shall occur. This approval shall remain effective as an authorization to share the required permits, establish the uses for a maximum of 1 year from this date, unless the applicant shall have submitted a written request to the planning board and shall have adopted such resolution granting an extension, provided the applicant has submitted proof of having diligently pursued the implementation of the plans. A draft resolution was prepared, the chairman read, discussed, and amended by the planning board. So do I have a motion to approve
I'll make the motion
as amended?
as amended.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstained. All right, you're done. You have the beginnings of your ice cream shop.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry.
Using local dairy?
We use as much local of everything as we can.
No, and what's Jane's ice cream?
All right, the next. What do you want?
I don't know, my phone just started playing videos.
Meanwhile, watching the game in the corner.
It's intermission.
No, Jane is sponsored.
All right, the next is Planning Board 20-20-07 for Susan Cusack. This is an 8-lot subdivision. The parcel is currently used as the Villa Veritas Rehab Center, woodlands and farmland. Parcel is located in Upper Cherrytown. It's 108 acres. It's in the AR3 zoning district. The parcel and the proposed subdivision parcels contain lands within the 100-year floodplain, contains a named stream, the Mambacus Creek, an unnamed tributary stream, hydric soils, prime farmland, farmland of statewide importance, are in the Ulster County AG3 Agricultural District, contains Ulster County Core Habitat Core lands, and are within the UCDOH Aquifer Zone. Proposed new subdivision lots are all to have separate driveway access under Upper Cherrytown and are proposed to be 5 and 3 acres in size.
Is Megan Stone one of the applicants?
No, Megan Stone is with CPL.
Okay.
And the other gentleman that was there for a second is with
Mr. Bowler.
CPL
Yep,
also.
Yep, okay. So I think I have everybody unmuted that you need right now.
Would you guys like Barry to run through this? Would you like to fire some questions?
I just have a couple of questions, maybe more than a couple. The map shows the 7-lot subdivision, and it's been typed a minor subdivision. The total impact is what, 38 acres, 35 acres, something like that. Barry can correct me later. So I need some help understanding either from the chair or from our attorney. There's wetlands here. I don't know to what extent. There's a 100-year floodplain here. It's a habitat area, yada, yada, yada. The fact that it's been split up into 7 lots, making it a minor subdivision under our subdivision law, doesn't obviate the need.
It is not major because they all technically have access onto the road. That's our law. If you're not making a new road or improvement, it falls under, we're not like everybody else, but.
So my question is then, in spite of that, or in addition to that, I think we need to go through all the things we would go through for a subdivision of this size because of the number of exigencies that are being impacted by this project. Those items being ones that I mentioned, plus others that I forgot. Wetlands, I don't know whether it's 12.1 acres or anything
You'll go
else.
through those things in your seeker review.
That's what I'm asking.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
this a-
What
yeah,
I'm,
so-
Whether it's minor or major, you're gonna go through those things in your seeker review.
So.
well, you also have the fact here that this is clearly disturbing over 2.5 acres in an ag zone, which is the 25% hurdle to make something a seeker type 1. Because, so,
It's similar to Wayward Ranch in that
Yeah,
it
but
exceeds.
you've been there, right? Like, this particular place, you're not gonna do any agriculture on, it's a gully.
you're not gonna do any agriculture, but your disturbance, you also, most of the slopes on this piece that they've chosen, because one thing that I like to put forth, we have 108 acres potentially, if one wanted to subdivide here. A lot of the backlands off of Ridgeview are quite flat.
Oh, yeah, no, there's fields beyond.
There's fields beyond there.
But where the
This,
road goes through, it's,
this piece where the road goes, so we have slopes between 16 to over 25%. The grading that you'd have to do, you're gonna need a speedies permit, you're gonna need a SWIP.
oh, no, of
Yeah.
course, what I'm saying is that it's not like we're taking some agricultural land for these uses if we allow the subdivision.
You're absolutely right.
There's nothing there that anyone's.
I think you just have to go through the
agriculture.
motions of acknowledging them.
Yeah, I live up there, I drive
Yeah,
by it
every
every
day.
day. practically.
So yes, it isn't very usable for agriculture, but putting homes there and the disturbance you'll have, everything flows down into the creek, into the hydric soils, and we really need an analysis of what other
Yeah, I guess. my point
environmental.
was, the whole
Yeah,
project
no, we
has to
need
be
to
looked
do
at
that,
holistically.
whether
Right.
there's agricultural land there or not.
Exactly.
We're getting
Yeah, yeah,
runoff
yeah.
into
And
this-
in
yeah,
addition
obviously.
to the secret process, there may be a need for other studies. Habitat study, endangered species study, species permit, species permit, SWIP. I don't know, I would defer to, and so this is certainly a project, if we haven't done it already, that we need to refer to CPL in order to help us
Right,
review.
because,
And that's why they're here.
exactly.
And that's why they're on the phone.
Because if you look at 125-22 subdivision design criteria, the proposed subdivision shall be designed to cause the least practical disturbance to natural infiltration and percolation of precipitation in the groundwater table, blah, blah, blah. This is not the best place for that. I can sort of go through the resource value of woodlands, preserving woodlands along roadways, property lines, fields, meadows, et cetera. There's a lot of, all grading and earth movement slopes exceeding 50% grade should be minimized. So there's a lot of challenges in the chosen lots on this whole lot to me. My thought would be, maybe you would like, as the applicant, to look at the entire property again, and if you would like to go through and find something that might not have as many constraints, because we can ask as a board for an alternative site plan. That might be a nice idea that wouldn't have quite as much disturbance and difficulties with it.
I don't see any other way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that I agree with all the statements that were just made about, like, you know, this is a sketch plan. I certainly am in favor of asking for other options. But I look at this and I see like a pretty straightforward subdivision to me. Like, it's a relatively dense neighborhood already. I don't agree that this is not reasonable building sites. I mean, it's a field for most of lot, I think 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I have to disagree with you, Sam, because if you look at the topo of it,
Yeah.
and it is incredibly sloping land. You are going to have to do massive infill.
In that case, it's so.
Yeah. Can I speak up a little bit on this?
It's not gonna run into the creek from there, it's just gonna run out into the fields. There's
Yeah.
any outside.
We don't know. It runs down.
Can I?
Yes, go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, so, Mary, you're right. There are a lot of steep slopes on this, but they're all associated with the stream down below in the back of the property. You know, it is quite steep. It's actually quite beautiful back there and pristine. And some of that runs up along the side. But the building sites that we would be proposing would be all up on the relatively flatter land up front. And I've walked this land and I've looked at it, and there's areas where we can get driveways in off of the town road with, you know, very little grading. and very little grading for placing the house or putting in the septic system. So we're not looking to tear this place all up with the excessive amount of grading. This is just at the very beginning of the process. We have a lot of work to do. One of the next things I'm going to be doing is getting soil test holes dug to identify the soils. I believe there's some very good soils on the site. And the 4 lots on the one side of the road are, this building sites will be pretty much in the open area that's mowed now. I think it's just really cut for hay. The sites on the other side of the road will be in wooded areas, but there's grades in there where, it levels off for house sites. It's really not that difficult. Another thing I want to point out is that upon reviewing the application recently with the owner, Susan, who she was just online, she wants to eliminate lot 7. And the reason for that is that, they still maintain the villa and they want to preserve the land that's around the villa for the villa itself, because a lot of their I guess you, what do you call them, customers or guests or clients, is that the proper term? Maybe clients?
It's a patient, yeah, and they walk around the pond and they love
They
the
walk
property.
around the property. So they use this property a lot. So she wants to preserve that part of it, the heart of the property, up and above the hotel area. So the lot areas that we're creating is land that they really don't use. And they will make some pretty nice building sites. And this is just step 1 in the process. It's a sketch plan. I thought it would be treated as a major subdivision, and we're certainly going to do all the environmental review. I've already have a wetlands and habitat biologist who's going to be inspecting the land for us. So a lot of the things you're talking about, we're going to be answering. And so we're just here with an initial application just to, get some feedback from the town.
I guess my personal key feedback was to see if there is a way that maybe there's a shared driveway, my beloved flag lots, that some of the flatter, easier lands that don't have poor habitats, that don't have the slope problems, that don't have, even if you're building on the front, no matter what, if there are houses on the front of those sides, it is so slopey down into the hydric soils and the stream that is back there, stuff flows off from having people living. They put fertilizer on their lawns, that there's lands that are more amenable to disturbance. If you go sort of behind lot 5 and 6, you could even have an entrance going in off of whatchamacallit.
Well,
It's just another thought that maybe.
Yeah, we considered that, and the owner really does not want to develop that part of the property. I think that's off the table. That's the part of the area she wants to preserve for the actual villa itself. And so when we do a little more work, it may be helpful if the planning board wants to come out and inspect the sites. We can do some stakeout, and you'll see the grades are not as crazy as they look maybe when you drive by, or even just looking from this map. This is a very sketchy map. And actually, each one of these lots has a relatively has a section that's relatively level grade with the road coming in for a driveway. And if you were to combine driveways, and because the houses will be spaced pretty far apart, then you're talking about a lot more disturbance by just to.
Do you guys want a screen share?
One lot to another.
I can give you capability if you want to use your map as an example to share.
Well, I think we have the basic idea, and we need another map to come, obviously, with lot number 7. I'd like to make a motion, since if you look at our design standards, there's a lot of things that need some analysis with our design standards here, that we should have CPL on the case to help coordinate and this is going to have a SWIP, this is going to have a lot of things we are not typically qualified to.
Well, I guess what I'm looking at this is, I can't tell, since I'm not an engineer, how much is flat and therefore is buildable and can stand a septic and still have the spreads for wells on each of these lots. I just can't tell. So, okay, 6 lots, 7 lots, fine. The meat of this whole project takes place when you delineate where the stream is, where the 100-year floodplain is, when you delineate
Exactly.
the wetlands, when you tell us about the habitat, all that stuff. So this is like, okay, this looks great. Now it gets started on the real work, which is all the studies, and do that in light of our code and with CPL. But I'm speaking to the already, you know what I'm talking about, Barry. So
Yes,
yeah,
yeah,
I
we're,
would prefer to see, frankly, I would prefer not to see another 7 driveways on this road. It's just, to me, it's too many.
It's a lot of tight access there.
Want to do on one side 3 lots with a single road, shared road, and on the other side, I don't know, I can't tell. 4 lots, 4 houses coming off one road, but maybe that would not be possible because of the slopes over there. I'm not sure. So I guess I'm from Missouri, convince me or show me, and this is really.
So
taking a baby
I'd
step.
say that I'd like to
know
make a
whether it's-
motion to post escrow with CPL. They recommended $6,000. And
That's for doing the SWIP, like all the things that are required
Well,
under
not just
section
the
125.
Evaluating.
that's reevaluating everything that comes
And then
in.
we're gonna need those other things later. Okay.
Right, so we're not using it right now, really.
Right.
But it will be used as the process goes through and we get more clarity.
Can I just, before we vote on that, because I agree that we'll need that, I think I have a slightly different initial reaction to this than some of the other board members, which is, to me, this looks like, yes, what Rick said, like, we're gonna need all those things that are required. But at this point on the sketch plan, like, I personally am not seeing red flags, like, I'm seeing something that looks pretty compliant with what our code says. Again, pending all of these more detailed things that we're gonna need.
Lauren, the
for our
owners
code.
raised her hand to speak, so I'm just passing it on to you.
So my question is just like, is there any disadvantage, and I don't even know if it's appropriate to ask the applicant, but like, do they see any reason why they would want to wait before establishing the escrow?
I was thinking the same thing, Sam.
Because like, I don't yet see any, like, understanding that by the time we get to completion, they're gonna need to do that escrow. I think
Okay.
that's stipulated.
I kind of think, yeah,
But like,
after
I don't know if
sketch,
I'm ready
but
to ask them to put, like, I just know that if I was in the position of doing an application like this, like, I might wanna get it a little further before I had to put up the cash.
Okay.
And like, I don't wanna
That's
create
fine.
an impediment.
There's nothing CPL's gonna do with this.
Right, that's what I'm
Right,
saying,
it's
like,
for
they're not,
sketch
there's
plan,
nothing
we're not
to give them yet.
Right.
And we can get a lot further before we're limited by our level of expertise. But I totally agree that we're gonna need to do it, it's just like it's a timing.
I agree with that.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
So what can you please define what step do you see?
Well, I think we can get to just like a more detailed plan, like we know we're gonna need, Rick did a better job listing them, there's a SWIP, the speedies. We're gonna need to see where the home sites are, they're gonna need to do the soil test to see where septics can go. I think it sounds like we're gonna ask them for maybe an alternate site plan if they can come up with one.
Yes. Are
Because
you
some of
taking
the-
notes?
Board members
Got
have,
notes.
because some of the board members are suggesting that maybe some of the configuration with an internal road might be better than without. Like, I think those are all things that we can ask and evaluate.
But at the same time, I'm not saying that it should do, but wouldn't get that money back, escrow?
They will, I don't know what this applicant's financial situation is. To me, it's sort of immaterial, but as a general rule, I feel like you're asking someone to put several $1,000s into a set-aside account where, yes, it would be refunded.
So the pros and cons of
Tying
that,
up money.
Sam, the pros and cons of that are that we don't have to do it, they can come back. It does take maybe some more time that way,
Mhm.
because they'll come back and we'll say, oh, you know what? 125-22 subdivision design, number 11, you have not met, and number 12, you have not met, number 9, so go back and redo it again.
Right.
Whereby if you involve CPL in that at the onset, so it really is up to, it's a monetary versus speed, and if you want slower, then it'll be less
That's
expensive.
a fair point. And we could be, I mean, I don't know if it's appropriate to ask the applicant. I'm just wary of
She
like
actually wants to
creating
tell us
something where we
something anyway.
automatically are requiring escrow just every time at this stage.
Well, the other ones we've done have not been, they've had noticeable difficulties that needed analysis. That would never-
I know. we
Don't
will
generalize
need
that
it.
at this
Adam.
point, at this stage, this is the new
Right.
go-to.
That's what I'm wary of, not that it will be needed at some point. And I'm comfortable asking the applicant. I don't know if there's some procedural reason why we shouldn't.
Well,
Okay,
if I
well-
could speak up for the applicant, we would prefer to get a more detailed set of plans together and more information to the board before you had your consultant review it. Otherwise, they're just, they got a blank piece of paper right now. They're going to list everything. And I'd rather do a lot of our homework and come back to the board with a more complete application before you sent it to a consultant.
All right, then,
Can I say something?
yes,
Hi, this is Sue Cusack.
yep,
Hi. First, I want to thank you. It's 39 years ago tomorrow that my husband and I, with your approval, we moved into the villa here. We bought the 108 acres it was. And we've really been very happy. My husband passed 4 years ago. And all of a sudden, we looked around and we really have excess property, and that appears to be across the road. That's what we were looking at. And we only need like about 80 acres, and it goes up to the top of our mountain. And as you know, we work with the alcoholic and drug addiction, and been getting a lot of local people from up north. And through the COVID, a lot of people have been resorting to drinking. So this is my mission, and my heart is here. I love Kerhonkson. The planning board gave us the okay. As I said, 39 years ago tomorrow, we moved in here, and we love it. But we have all this excess property I don't need. It's been out there. And I thought there'd be a lot of families that might want to come up from the city. They've been coming up buying homes. And I talked to Barry, I was recommended, and he and his wife were excited for the families that maybe could move up and start a new life here, as I did. So I just wanted to, to ask you about that. That's why we picked all that property, because it's something we don't need, whereas our clients are enjoying all of the property around our pond and up to the top of the mountain. So we really don't need it. It's excess. And I was hoping it could help, help other people. Okay.
So the plan from 39 years ago, we have, sorry, Brian, if we can go back 39 years and look at that file, because if all this land is included in that site plan, it's probably not a big deal to amend the site plan because there is so much acreage, but we might have to do that.
okay, thank you. You knocked yourself out with that.
I just want to mention, I don't know 39 years ago if the planning board was actually reviewing and approving site plans.
I think it was a town of Rochester, was it? We
Yeah,
went before the
Town of
board.
Rochester, but I believe they.
You weren't, you were too young, all of you. You were too young.
But I
Actually think
would
we
be
have it.
surprised to find if there's an actual site plan map. But perhaps if the town could go through the records and see if there is such a map.
Right, that's
what we're gonna do. We will dig it up.
Brianna's gonna look. We're not asking you to look.
All right, so I guess you go forward, Barry. You have a lot of the stuff that you need to do. I would definitely say in designing, you look at the design criteria, because while you might not need the other side, it is not the greatest in meeting some of our design criteria and our comp plan for division into 7 or 6 lots. So just bear that in mind.
Should we ask them formally at this point to give us at least one alternate layout? I mean, it
Yeah, I
sounded
think
like
we
there's
sort of,
one.
that is in there, that's
We
what,
can ask.
what Patrick is doing so diligently, not taking his notes. If you could throw up an alternative just for S and G,
So, what would be the alternative?
an alternative using maybe some of the back land,
Well,
shared driveway or shared.
quite honestly, I'm reluctant to submit a plan that we absolutely do not want approved.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this could not be approved because it doesn't meet hurdles, so just keep in the back of your mind. That's also an option.
Yeah, well, you don't have all the design yet either. You don't have all the information. And I feel quite confident is that when you start looking at more detail of where we're planning on building and how we'll protect some of the more sensitive parts of the land, that I think you'll change your mind. And I think you should give us the opportunity to submit that. I don't want to start looking at developing parts of the land that she does not want to develop.
Okay,
I thought maybe the other point that came up is number of new driveways. Is there a benefit towards these design and development standards that could be gained by having maybe an internal road? You know, maybe the answer is no. I think what we're just saying is like,
instead of having so many driveway cuts, maybe the same lots, but a different access. So there's not as many, there's gonna be a lot of stacking of driveways coming out in a relatively tight area.
Well,
On
I
that
might
road.
point out that each of these lots have more than 400 feet of frontage.
I was gonna say, what's the frontage on these? I didn't know.
About 400 feet. And if you just look at the map I submitted, if you just look a little bit to the north, you can see you have lots there that are running at about, they're half the size. They're half the frontage with multiple driveways. So,
Well, let's just stop the debate for now. So you've got a bunch of work to do, so,
let's see where the homes are gonna go.
oh, he knows all that. We don't need to go, that's what we're not explaining, or I can get CPL to do it for us, all right? All right, so hush. All right, you have your task at hand.
we'll be back.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
Thank you. And you have a good night.
All right, you too, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain. Where's my signature? See, this is the